Thank you for joining us tonight. You're now with me, Shel Shamnato, bringing you the eye on the news tonight. We begin with the headlines. A 25-year-old man who was trapped in a tunnel in a cave in Gunung Tabai at Bau has been found crushed to death by a rock. Bau Fire Station Chief Tawang Lingam said 2 of his personnel managed to enter the narrow tunnel. They found the victim's body at about 4:30 p.m.
The search and rescue operation is stopped at 5 p.m. in view of the movement of the rocks and soil, which could endanger the lives of the rescuers. Operation resumes at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
Dan gerak kerja esok, kita akan teruskan operasi dengan pukul 8 pagi dengan melakukan gerak kerja penyambungan proses soring, dan kita akan buat size up yang terbaru di lokasi tersebut.
The operation to be resumed by tomorrow morning. Let's hope the operation can take out the body of the deceased. Ruben Gomez, St. Hashim, TVS.
Seen to increase the produce of harvest, a plowing machinery worth 83,000 ringgit has been handed over to the farming community in Kampung Skiat, Baru in Bau. This was to ease the community in the process of corn harvesting. Therefore, this community expresses their gratitude as the convenience will bring a new shade of hope for their produce. Let's hear what they have to say about it.
Dengan kemudahan jentera ini, kami berasa cukup berbangga kerana mesin ini dapat membantu kami dengan lebih meluaskan kerja kami dan menyenangkan kami lagi di kampung ini untuk membesarkan sawah ladang kami di kampung ini.
Supaya kami dapat mengubahkan cara ramak kami seperti memakai cangkul kah, pakai enjin rumput kah. Jadi adanya mesin seperti ini dapat kami mengubah corak kami bekerja lah, supaya kerja kami lebih pantas lagi dan lebih canggih lagi lah.
Macam dulu kan kita semua menggunakan tangan, manual kan. Jadi dengan adanya mesin ni, ia akan memudahkanlah sebab tanah yang kami guna ni tak pernah digembur, dan dengan adanya mesin ni tanah ni akan digembur dan supaya hasilnya nanti akan lebih meningkatlah dari yang biasa dari sekarang ni.
Meanwhile, according to Tasik Biru Assemblyman Dato' Henry Jinep, the machinery will benefit a total of 58 farmers in the said village. He also encouraged university graduates in the area to take up modern agrotechnology in line with the state government's mission.
Nampak potensi untuk membangunkan secara moden itu ada. Dengan peruntukan AFF yang diperuntukkan kepada setiap adun oleh pihak kerajaan, saya menggunakan dan mengambil peluang ini untuk membekalkan satu mesin membajak supaya kita kurangkan menggunakan tenaga manusia, tetapi kita banyak menggunakan cara kita membuat pemasalan packaging dan sebagainya, dan kerja-kerja membajak itu kita menggunakan mesin lebih moden, dan juga saya percaya hasilnya mungkin boleh bertambah.
On the other hand, the Sarawak state government has held talks with airline companies to provide special flights to Sarawakian students studying in Sabah. Sarawak Minister of Transport Dato' Lee Kim Shin said this followed requests from Sarawakian students studying there.
His ministry has received a request from Sarawakian students studying in Sabah for flights from Kuching to Kota Kinabalu and from Miri to Kota Kinabalu. Based on this request, the state government has held discussions with Malaysia Airlines, AirAsia, Malindo Air and Maswing on the possibility of providing special flights to the aforementioned destinations in order to fulfill those requests. Students are also advised to contact the airline companies to book their flight tickets. This is so that the airline companies can place them in special flights. Lee hopes that this approach could assist students to return to campus and continue their new semester studies this April 5th. At this moment in time, the Sarawak state government had reduced the number of flights due to the COVID-19 situation, with only approved flights allowed to enter.
And residents in Miri can now breathe a sigh of relief come heavy rain as 9 flood mitigation projects have been approved. Sarawak Transport Minister Datuk Lee Kim Shin said the project proposals were mooted following frequent floods in January.
Nadine Assemblyman said that of the 9 projects, 5 would be funded by the state government with an allocation of 320,000 ringgit. Meanwhile, the remaining 4 are under the purview of the federal government with a grant of 720,000 ringgit. The projects include river clearing works on Sungai Adong and Sungai Miri Kecil, clearing and desilting works on the existing earth drain at Jalan Indah 3 in Desa Pujut, and clearing works on an existing drain at Tudan Phase 3 and Phase 5. The clearing work of the 6.2 kilometre Sungai Adong began on March 8 along with 4 other projects and is expected to be completed on June 8. Lee hoped that the clearing projects can help solve the flooding woes in the area. Meanwhile, 4 more projects under the federal government have begun on March 15 and are expected for completion between July and September.
And this is the story of 2 farmers' efforts to grow durian, despite lacking knowledge and experience, proved fruitful after getting praise from the Sarawak government. The duo has successfully grown Musang King and 5 other durian varieties in Berkenu without much assistance.
In recognizing their success, the state government has provided farm owners Muhammad Momand, 60, and Jamani Jamiran, 65, with farm inputs for structure, improvement, and supporting services. Meanwhile, Miri-based Sawfield Agro Bioresources has donated its biofertilizers to them. According to Assistant Minister of Agriculture, Native Land and Regional Development, Dr. Abdul Rahman Ismail, his ministry will provide farm inputs worth 20,000 ringgit to each orchard, as well as improvement of road access and supporting services. The 2 farms now have about 500 durian trees, including the much sought after Musang King and Blackthorn species, which are about to bear its first fruits. Although they initially suffered financial losses due to low survival rates, they eventually were able to gradually expand the size of their orchards to 12 acres.
Back to the Nightline with the COVID-19 development as the Sarawak State Disaster Management Committee, or SDMC, today reported 118 new recoveries and discharges from the hospital. Meanwhile, the Sarawak Health Department has announced the end of the Gerongang cluster in Sibu. SDMC also reported 141 new COVID-19 cases in Sarawak. 1 new cluster was detected, the Chupa cluster in Serian. This brings the total number of active clusters in Sarawak to 31. Of that number, 6 clusters saw increases in cases, while 25 other clusters saw no new additions. Meanwhile, Tabadut Division has changed from a green zone to yellow zone, while Tanjung Manis turned from yellow to orange. Meanwhile, the Enhanced Movement Control Order, or EMCO, in Kampung Bintawa Ulu and Kampung Bintawa Tengah, which is on its 9th day, is going smoothly. The 2 villages were placed under EMCO since March 16.
Jadi alhamdulillah setakat ini semuanya berjalan dengan lancar. Hanya peringkat awal saja kita merapi ada isu-isu kecil, tapi telah pun dapat diselesaikan dan setakat ini hari ke-9 keadaan berjalan lancar dan saya dapati penduduk kampung dapat menyesuaikan diri dengan baiknya.
The COVID-19 swab exercise 4 days ago saw over 3,700 individuals screened and 1 tested positive and was referred to a quarantine centre.
Dan besok akan diadakan tes saringan yang kedua yang akan diadakan di tempat yang sama, yang akan melibatkan kesemua hampir 4,000 orang penduduk kampung. Jadi kita telah menyarankan kepada JKK kampung kita untuk memaklumkan kepada penduduk kampung supaya dapat turun mengikut giliran. Jadual akan diberikan supaya semuanya akan diberi saringan.
Kampung Bintawa Ulu Village Development and Security Committee's JKKK Chairman Bujang Muhammad said that overall he is satisfied with the outpouring of help and support to the affected area.
sebagai wakil Ulu mengucapkan juatan terima kasih kepada semua yang berkenaan untuk mengagihkan makanan dan semua agensi-agensi kerajaan termasuk kali pejabat daerah Peking, Bandio dan jasa turun padang untuk mengatasi dan mengawali agihan dan penduduk-penduduk di Kampung Bintang Ulu.
On the other hand, 19.45 billion ringgit in ILAS-TARI withdrawals involving 5.23 million Employees Provident Fund or EPF have been approved as of March 12. For ICNA withdrawals, Minister of Finance Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz said 52.48 billion ringgit has been approved, and of that amount, 32.74 billion ringgit were credited to applicants.
Mulai 8 Mac yang lepas, kelayakan permohonan kemudahan ICNA telah ditambah baik bagi membantu rakyat meneruskan kelangsungan hidup. Setakat 14 Mac, pengeluaran sebanyak 52.48 bilion ringgit telah diluluskan yang melibatkan seramai 5.94 juta pemohon. Daripada jumlah itu, sebanyak 32.74 bilion ringgit telah pun dikreditkan.
Meanwhile, the definition of the national statutory debt has not changed since 2009. The matter was announced by Finance Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz when presenting the 46th Economic Stimulus Implementation and Coordination Unit between Agencies Pelaksana report on Wednesday. And Tourism Malaysia is providing the e-Tunai voucher worth 450,000 ringgit to encourage spending through the Shop and Be Rewarded campaign. The campaign is launched from March 16 until March 28 with an initiative to garner spending to revive the said industry. Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, MOTAC, Datuk Seri Nancy Shukri said that through the campaign, the 10 ringgit discount for each minimum purchase of 50 ringgit included in 30 shopping malls nationwide. On 2019, the shopping industry are among the main factors of expenditure components on domestic tourism, which comprised of 37.8%. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the shopping and retail industry have deteriorated, especially since the first movement control order or MCO. The campaign was carried out with the Malaysian Shopping Malls Association PPK in line with the tourism recovery package to revive the retail industry. And on to the next update, as the government is considering to enhance the effectiveness of the Malaysian Civil Defence Force or APM services. This would include the move to expand its emergency and disaster operations across agencies. In a fight against the spread of COVID-19, the role of APM is ever increasing, especially in border control, quarantine centres and community empowerment programs.
Pembinaan kompleks pejabat dan pusat latihan di negeri Perak, negeri Sabah dan Sarawak untuk melaksanakan dalam rolling plan kedua menerusi rancangan Malaysia yang ke-12. Kompleks ini bakal menjadi pusat pembinaan sementara ataupun temporary shelters untuk penduduk yang terkesan akibat bencana dan akan dilengkapi dengan sistem amaran awal.
The government is also considering improvements or restructural changes at state offices. The government is also looking into proposal to improve or restructure MAP permanent posts in states and districts via Disaster Management Secretariat. And members of the public need to inform the Health Department should they have missed the appointment for the second dose of the national COVID-19 vaccine. These individuals could ask for rescheduling of their vaccination anytime within 40 days of their first dose.
Deputy Health Minister Dato' Aaron Ago Dagang said this was in response to a suggestion from a local community leader in Sarawak for rural folk to be administered with a single dose. The proposal was voiced following the various constraints faced by rural residents who might probably miss their vaccination appointment, as they normally did with the common hospital appointment. The sole single-dose vaccine at the moment is J&J, produced by Janssen Pharmaceutical Companies of Johnson & Johnson, which was reported as having 66.3% efficacy in clinical trials. Meanwhile, commenting on the announcement of a 10 million ringgit allocation for the COVID-19 Vaccine Injury Fund to compensate individuals who might experience side effects from vaccination, he said the government is confident with the existing vaccines.
Thank you for staying with me. Now, following the next news, as the Malaysian Armed Forces, or MAF, has increased their preparedness level following the recent statement made by a diplomat of the North Korean Embassy in Malaysia, Kim Yu-song. Chief of Defence Force General Tan Sri Afandi Boang said that the country is not just facing physical threats, but also cyber security threats. Nonetheless, he assured that everything is being under control.
We increase our state of pemerhatian especially on cyber ni kan. We hope for the best. Our team is working hard kan. Benda ni orang kata something that you cannot avoid. On the ATM nya side ni, I think we will do what we need to do to make sure that Malaysia is safe.
Afandi said that cybersecurity threat is now one of the main focuses of the MAF as today's society relies heavily on cyber technology. Afandi said this in response to Kim's statement last Sunday that Malaysia had to bear the consequences of its action that led to the prosecution of a North Korean citizen. Now, the field of space economy, which is being developed by Sabah Dynamic Group Berhad, plays an important role in information and communication technology, or ICT. Among others, the technology can help bridge the digital divide and address internet connectivity issue in remote areas of the country through satellite technology.
So the main focus for Sabah Dynamic as we speak is to help address digital divide. Especially in Sarawak, Sabah and rural areas. We see in COVID, in this pandemic, we see a lot of issues of connectivity. There's a lot of learning needs to be done back at home, but there are areas that cannot be reached.
The infrastructure can also open up new opportunities and bigger market for related industries under the fourth wave of industrial revolution. This in turn contributes to the nation's development, which aspires to provide seamless connectivity to its people.
We will provide the backhaul and connectivity for TVS Sarawak to deliver, messages to rural areas. It is in parallel with our plan to deliver the first 500 sites in the next 3 years for broadband connectivity, and in parallel, TVS Sarawak can ride by pushing messages contained that is localized under Sarawak's interest to the rural area.
Meanwhile, Sabah Dynamic is planning to set up a space engineering and operations center in Bintulu due to its location.
Is that Bintulu is a heart of ASEAN. It's 3,000 kilometers all around. So meaning that if you wanted to do transportation, if you wanted to receive assets or space assets for testings, etc., whatsoever, it is very close by. We just need to use regional jet narrow body, what we call it aircraft, for delivery and logistics. So that's where we have identified.
And Malaysia and Singapore are committed to continue cooperating towards post-pandemic recovery. Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, Khairi Jamaluddin, said this is based on talks between both nations concerning the handling of digital vaccination certificates.
Both Malaysia's and Singapore digital vaccination certificates will be secured by blockchain technology and come with a traceability feature that tells the exact batch of the vaccine vial used for inoculation. The interoperability between the digital certification system used by both nations will be crucial, especially when taking in account the standards set by the World Health Organization, the International Air Transport Association, and other countries. Both ministers also discussed on their respective national immunization plans and the exchange of best practices and opening up the borders with health certificates recognized by both nations. Malaysia and Singapore are also committed in becoming a working model of post-pandemic recovery.
And European and US companies have ranked Malaysia as the second most favorable Southeast Asian country for foreign investment. According to a study commissioned by Standard Chartered, Malaysia is a country to establish or expand sourcing, selling or operations over the next 6 to 12 months.
Chief financial officers and treasurers in the US, the UK, Germany, and France indicated that despite uncertainty caused by the global pandemic, overseas markets remain key to growth. Standard Chartered said respondents see Asia remaining a growth region, with over 85% operating and implementing in Asia for business activities. In Asia, Japan topped the list by 42% as the most preferable destination for foreign investment, followed by China at 36% and Australia at 34%. Malaysia was ranked 9th in the list, 3 notches below Singapore, which was ranked 6th.
Wrapping up the Nightline with the sports development as national women's singles shuttler as Kisona has withdrew from this week's Orleans Masters tournament in France. Badminton Association of Malaysia, or BAM, in a statement confirmed that the coaching team reached a collective decision on withdrawal after evaluating the 22-year-old's recent performance at the All England in Birmingham.
Kisona, who made her All-England debut last week, lost to 8th seed Busanan Ongbam Rungpan of Thailand 6-21, 7-21 in the opening round.
And that concludes TVS Nightline for tonight. And as always, thank you for tuning in to your local news tonight. Here with me, Chaminator, and I'll see you next time. Have a good night.
Kisona, who made her All-England debut last week,